Speaking of headlines, the U.S., the U.K., and the Netherlands took this joint action accusing Russia of these cyber plots across the globe. 4 Russians caught in the act.
Yeah, this story is on the front pages of nearly all of the British and the Dutch papers this morning. Let's start with the UK, where this image is front and center. It shows 4 Russian men who are thought to be spies arriving.
Not tourists.
No. Arriving in the Netherlands, as Metro says, they're just chumps or dummies after Dutch authorities caught them red-handed trying to spy on the headquarters of the World Chemical Watchdog in The Hague. The Eye puts it differently. They chose the headline, "Carry on spying," as in sort of keep it up, we'll still catch you. The Eye says the spies committed a number of blunders, and blunder is actually a term that comes up a lot in the Dutch press. The Algemeen Dagblad, I hope I'm saying that correctly, says that the spies were so open about what they were doing that it was pure amateur hour, that they came on diplomatic passports, saved receipts of spying equipment, had a trunk full of gear that was obvious for cyber hacking. Now, the Telegraph takes us step by step through the spies' movements in the Netherlands, saying that the cyber war has reached the streets of the country.
Now, naturally, the Russian press taking a different version of it. It's calling this the Western spy mania, and that the accusations are simply untrue.
Indeed. The Daily Russian Kommersant says, quote, the great list of claims is wholly unfounded and there is no evidence. While Sputnik says that the accusations of spying are just an attempt to tarnish the image of Russia.
Moving on now to the U.S. and an opinion piece written by Brett Kavanaugh in the Wall Street Journal. This drawing a lot of attention.
Yeah, I am an independent, impartial judge. That's what Brett Kavanaugh says in a piece he wrote today for the Wall Street Journal. He says that, yes, he was emotional in his testimony because he's just a son, husband, and dad. Now, some may see the op-ed as a sort of Republican ploy to repaint his image. But Adam Gottner in The New Yorker argues that it isn't Kavanaugh's testimony and the anger and the possibility that he was lying under oath that make him unfit to be a Supreme Court justice. Gottner argues that Kavanaugh, in accepting the nomination, proved that he is partisan and not an impartial judge, that he is a pawn of Trump's attempt to sort of stack the Supreme Court in case, actually, if there is a move later to impeach him.
And a lot of press looking at the knock-on effects and whether it'll benefit the Democrats or the Republicans in next month's midterm elections.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and the press is actually covering it quite widely. The New York Magazine says that despite conventional wisdom that the scandal would hurt the Republicans, it may have actually done the opposite, because it has united the Republican Party behind a single issue, behind what they see as unfair treatment of Kavanaugh, and that there might be actually an uptick in support of Trump and of the Republicans in November.
You mentioned the uptick support in Trump. Some wondering how he's faring through these Kavanaugh hearings.
Well, according to Vox, quite well. It argues that the fact that the Republicans have gotten behind, all of them have gotten behind Kavanaugh, is proof that there really isn't any resistance against Trump, and that there actually never has been. That those politicians that have hinted of being against Trump, the Never Trump movement, are actually towing the Republican Party line, and that Trump is still widely popular among Republicans with some 80% approval ratings among his voters. Now, naturally, this doesn't paint the whole picture. There are many Americans who have had enough of Trump and enough of the GOP. The divisions that Kavanaugh's hearing raised are pretty well illustrated in a cartoon, as you can see there. It's from the Columbus Dispatch, and it says that civility and fairness are dead and buried in this political fight.
Now, in Kavanaugh's testimony, he said he likes a beer every now and then. Something perhaps controversial, maybe less controversial, but more surprising. Our feathery friends like a drink or two as well, don't they, Solange?
Yes, they do. The Washington Post tells us that birds are getting drunk in Minnesota and across the U.S. and Canada because warm temperatures are actually making them migrate later on in the year, and because the berries that they like to eat are fermenting faster and turning into alcohol. Well, this is causing havoc in Minnesota and elsewhere, with birds flying into windows and flopping around in sort of a drunken stupor. And one commentator joked that everything is connected. There goes the chance of any bird from northern Minnesota ever being on the Supreme Court.
Birds of a feather, Solange, birds of a feather. Finally, to end, a bit of news closer to home. Preserving the French language has long been an important endeavor in France, and one of the bodies that tries to do that has recommended a new term.
Yeah, say goodbye to the Anglicism fake news and say hello to infox, which is short for the French information fallacieuse. The Guardian tells us that the Commission for the Enrichment of the French Language has coined the term and has recommended that French speakers use it. It is instead of fake news. It is spelled INFOX, which actually sounds kind of like an English word to me.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've fed up of hearing that term fake news.
Yeah, me too. Why not? We'll go for infox.
If it exists, it's our job to point it out. Thank you so much very much for that.